Now this is a movie. I remember when they were advertising this movie. We're talking about Pacific Rim 3D. This is kaiju's versus giant robots, and it is fantastic. This is a Guillermo del Toro movie. This is 100% lightning in a bottle. Wonderful, has a lot of heart. 3D in this movie is out of this screen. Very, very deep 3D. Some 3D is so deep it's kind of hard to look at sometimes, but it's only a few shots. And I really recommend this highly to anybody that has a 3D setup. This is a must-have for 3D owners. I remember when they were advertising this movie, they really wanted people to see it in IMAX 3D, and I regret not seeing this in IMAX 3D or at all in the theater, because I would have been blown away by it. But they were like, "This is it, man. This is the movie," and it definitely lives up to its name. I haven't seen the sequel though. I heard. This is another 2D film. It's not my standard fare, but it's pretty good. Paper Towns. I actually learned something from this movie. I learned what a Paper Towns is, and this is a pretty damn good road trip romance movie. And it's, if you're into that sort of thing, then I would recommend. If you're into the author that wrote The Fault in Our Stars, then I would recommend this. And if you want to learn new things and go on like a mystery road trip kind of thing, that's what this movie is. Pretty decent. Should have been in 3 though. We are gonna do something for the first time. This is gonna be a six for a whole saga. Hold on to your butts. Okay, so I got all these movies just for the one, and I vividly. What we're gonna get into. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the Paranormal Activity series. I have Paranormal Activity 1 through 3. Like I said, I really hope you guys can see these movies. Looks a little dark on the screen there, but I'm gonna hold out hope. Paranormal Activity 1 through 3 on in one case. I got Paranormal Activity 4 in one case, Paranormal Activity the marked ones in one case, and Paranormal Activity the Ghost Dimension in 3 in another. Now, when these, I think I had seen all these movies. Now, when Ghost Dimension came out, I was working at a movie theater, and they weren't showing this movie at the theater because it was released video on demand on the same day. So I had to go to another theater close to the big city to see it, and I'm glad that I did, because this movie is one of the most creative 3D movies I've ever seen. If anybody tries to front you, I mean, there are other movies to display how 3D is used as a storytelling device, but this one is like a really easy, obvious one for most people to sink their teeth into. This movie really uses 3D to help tell its story, and it is some of the best 3D I've ever seen. It is extremely creative use of 3D, and I remember seeing it in the theater. It was a really bad screen, but I was just blown away by it so much that I was like, I have to get this movie. And I wanted to show my roommates this movie, but of course she needed to see the rest of them in order to see this one. So I ended up picking up all these movies and this one, and we sat down, we watched all of them, and the Ghost Dimension was just absolutely brilliant. I remember they have this thing called the Spirit camera, and that's what they use to do the 3D with. And I remember there was towards the beginning when he's messing around with the Spirit camera for the first time, the main character is he sees this. It almost looks like the gas monster magic creature things from Fantastic Beasts, like the thing that explodes out of a magic person's body. It looked like that. It was in the living room. He's like, wow, that's kind of weird. And so he it was in 2D, and he panned over it, and then it in your face 3D, and it was really deep too. And then he moved away from it, and it went to 2D, and then he came back inside of it, and then it went to 3D again, and then he moved away, and it went to 2D. It was so cool. I was like, I had never seen 3D used like that before. It blew my mind, and I was like, this is really cool use of it. This whole movie isn't in 3D. It's only certain scenes, but it is really well done, and when they do the 3D, it is very well earned. And particularly a final shot with it's not a final shot of the film, but towards the end, or in the climax, there is a hand that comes towards the screen, and it looks so good. This movie, I'm so shocked to say this, but I highly recommend the Ghost Dimension just to show off to people how 3D can be used as a storytelling device, and it looks really cool. That it's so bizarre that a freaking Paranormal Activity film is the one movie that I'm like, holy shit, the 3D is like they'd actually used it in like an artistic sense, and I'm glad they did. It looks good, and I'm not sure if it was filmed in 3D or post converted. I think it was. I've seen conflicting sources on it, but if it was post converted, it is a phenomenal post conversion job. Like it full. I've seen a lot of 3D movies, so I can usually tell when something's post converted when something was natively shot. Because in native 3D, everything is much more consistent, and in post conversion, you can kind of tell where different objects are. Both of them have their uses. Now this is one that I got fairly recently, one that I've been looking for so long. Happy that I finally found it. ParaNorman in 3D. Now I know for a fact this one was also shot in 3D by Leica, and while the 3D isn't as strong in this movie, or they don't have as many strong moments of 3D as Coraline does, it still does have a lot of fun, and this is a genuinely fantastic movie. It takes horror zombie genre and flips it on its head. All of Leica's films are great, and this is one I definitely recommend in 3D. There are pop-out moments, there's a lot of funny stuff in here, and I highly recommend this movie in general. This is an interesting one. This is another one that I saw in theaters in 3D, and it took a while before I eventually got it on Blu-ray. I was really worried. A lot of people were worried before this came out. This was made by Blue Sky, which of course is owned by Disney now. And people were like, "Oh my God, we've seen so many readaptations of old properties, especially cartoons, and they just butcher it." But the Schultz estate had direct control. They were involved the whole way, and this is a fantastic Peanuts movie. This fits in along with all the rest of them. The animation style is really well done, and that was back before studios really started. This was before the Lego movie, maybe? I'm not sure, but this was back before the studios really started experimenting with how you can do different styles with CG. It looks like the original show, just in CG, and the 3D is really well done, and the reason that you should get this in 3D is for the flying ace scenes with Snoopy. Those are so good. Lots of deep areas, lots of volume. There's like stuff coming out of the screen. Very, very cool. I picked it up almost exclusively for those scenes, but the rest of it looks really nice too, and it's a very feel-good movie. If you ever feel like crap and you watch this movie, you're gonna feel good after it. Really good. Peanuts movie. I remember when that came out, man, that movie was selling out. I worked at the theater when that came out. So that movie was selling out all day. All day, every day. That definitely came out after the Lego movie, because I wasn't working at the theater at the time. This is one I picked up at 7-Eleven, and I got it because it was really cheap. Probably wouldn't have picked it up otherwise. But we have the Penguins of Madagascar. I did see this in 3D in the theaters. This is a fun little spin-off film. DreamWorks is really good at spin-off films and sequels. This is a fun one. There are other spin-off film, which I'll get to, I probably prefer over this. But if you think the penguins are funny or cute or whatever, you're going to like this movie. It's a pretty harmless, entertaining, fun 3D flick. And that's pretty much all I can say about it. Not super important to rush out and get this one, but if you see it really cheap, it's worth taking a look at. It's just another one from another stop motion animation studio that I looked for a long time and was finally able to find it. The Pirates Band of Mischief, Band of Misfits, or if you're in another country, the Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists in 3D. I read online that this was shot in 3D. I'm not sure if that's true or not. The 3D in this movie isn't super exciting or entertaining. You'd probably be fine just watching this in 2D. It's not one of Aardman's best films. Borderline's not even being that great of a film, but it's decent enough, and it has a fun twists and turns, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, it's alright. I don't regret picking it up. I didn't have it and I really wanted it, and I'm glad that I did see it. Or I had already seen it, but I'm glad that I got it in 3D just because I want to support stop motion. Alright, we're gonna jump into another saga here. Now, I know there's one of these that I don't have, and it might eventually pick it up for completionist's sake. But we're talking about the Pirates of the Caribbean films. We got Curse of the Black Pearl, Dead Man's Chest, At World's End, and On Stranger Tides. Uh, these movies are fantastic. I like Pirates 4 more than a lot of people. I understand why people don't like this movie, but I enjoy it a lot. This movie was filmed in 3D. I feel like there are some places that 3D could have been pushed more. They do have some swords coming out of the screen that works a little bit, but they should have really made the 3D in this movie deeper. But it was nice to see a movie that was like a really big budget Hollywood film that was actually filmed in 3D. This is a great series. Pirates 5 isn't really that great. It's kind of bizarre that people think that Pirates 5 is better than this. I don't know, I guess it's just their opinion. But especially this first trilogy and especially this movie are definitely worth getting. This is one of the first Blu-rays that we actually ever got, and this is one of the first 3D Blu-rays I got. Really well done. I think one of them is, one of the discs is loose in one of them. Or not, I don't know. Good Pirates films, good. Check it out. Also, this is limited 3D edition, but you can find it everywhere. This is one that I was surprised to see. Like I said, Warner Brothers still supports releasing 3D Blu-rays in the United States, as we saw with Godzilla King of the Monsters, but I haven't seen Detective Mode. I should check that out. Anyway, well, that gave it away. Pokemon Detective Pikachu. What a bizarre game to adapt into a film, but it really worked. A lot of people were like, this is kind of starting to break the video game curse, even though I think Angry Birds did that before. And say what you will about Angry Birds, but the movie was a good adaptation, and it was a pretty decent movie in and of itself. But Detective Pikachu, the 3D in this movie is really fantastic. I saw this in theaters in 3D. I knew I had to pick it up. It is genuinely fun. Visually, it's exciting. It's a weird mystery, and the ending is kind of weird, but it more than makes up for it. Ryan Reynolds has to go to has a chiropractor because he pretty much carried this whole movie on his back. You got Justice Smith doing a great job. If you're a fan of Pokemon and you want to see all your favorite Pokemon in the theater, this is one to get. And I actually heard that they were planning on doing a sequel and making other movies in the Pokemon universe. So if they followed this format and they make them look this good, we're in for a good time. This is a guilty buy. I'm very mixed on this film. But today we're taking a look, right now we're taking a look at Pixels, the Adam Sandler joint. And while I have mixed feelings. Like I said, I have mixed feelings in this movie. I wasn't even going to pick it up, but you know what? I saw this in theaters, and I really like classic video games, arcade games, that sort of thing. It's really novel seeing that sort of thing, especially in 3D. 3D is really fun in this movie, and they do a lot with aspect ratios, that sort of thing. But sometimes Adam Sandler's humor can get in the way, and he's not at his best here. I know a lot of people like this would be better if it was helmed by anyone else. This was actually directed by Chris Columbus, and I think he kind of helped save the movie. This movie is fun, though. That's the thing. It's a lot of fun. It's really interesting. The aliens are kind of creepy because you never really see what they look like. And, I mean, you kind of get a glimpse of them at one point in the movie. But it's really creepy that these aliens just showed up out of nowhere, and they're portraying these 80s pop stars, or these, popular characters from the 80s, and they're, really robotic, and it's, really fake. It's legitimately creepy. Anyway, best part of the movie, though, Max Headroom shows up towards the end, and that has really good 3D, and I was so excited when I saw that. I was like, oh my god, it's Max Headroom. I kind of said something out loud in the theater. But yeah, 3D's really good if you're into the old video game, or if you're into arcade games and you are willing to look past some of Adam Sandler's not so great comedy sometimes, then this one is worth checking out. Good 3D movie. It's also one of the few Sony movies that isn't twice as thick as a normal Blu-ray. Here we go. Here's the big one. Here's the movie that made everybody want to start making 3D movies. And we are talking about The Polar Express. This movie came out in IMAX 3D, and I haven't seen it in a true IMAX theater. I saw it in like a fake, smaller Regal Cinemas one. But I saw this movie in IMAX 3D, not when it came out. I actually had the Blu-ray before I saw it in IMAX 3D, I believe. There's weird issues with the 3D in the Blu-ray that weren't present in the movie. I don't know what the deal is with there. It doesn't come up too often, but when it does, it's a little distracting. But the 3D in this movie, it goes without saying, is absolutely phenomenal. It blew everyone away, and seeing it in IMAX 3D, even if it was a fake IMAX, was still amazing. There's a shot with the train's snowplow that comes right like an inch in front of your face. Lots of deep 3D, lots of exciting action set pieces. It's pretty much worth price of admission. It's supposed to feel like a ride. I like the experience of being on the Polar Express, and the 3D is just really, really good. I can look past the weird zombie like people say they're zombie like. I've never really had an issue with them the way the characters look. It's one of the first of its kind. They tried something new, and some aspects worked, some aspects didn't. But this is a good 3D movie and good 3D Christmas film too. Here's one that a lot of people didn't like, and I can understand that, but I personally like it. This is also from the director of Monster House, Gil Kenan, taking a look at the Poltergeist reboot, or remake, and you can tell that Gil Kenan has a lot of love for that original movie, and while that original movie can't be touched and it is really fantastic, this remake, I think, is pretty decent and stands on its own. I feel like if this wasn't a remake of Poltergeist, people would have been a lot kinder to it. There are a lot of legitimate creepy things in this movie. It doesn't always rely on jump scares like a lot of horror films do. And this movie was made with 3D in mind. 3D is very good here. And there, especially like some shots with the drone coming right up into your face. There's a shot, it's a scary moment with a drill coming through a wall. 3D is really good. And it's a feel-good movie. It might be a little bit more lighthearted than the original Poltergeist, but I like this movie. I would actually recommend this movie if you're a horror fan and you want a good 3D movie. This is one. This is post-converted, but despite that, it's still phenomenal, fantastic. All right, we're down to the last two lists, or the last two stacks, fat stacks of Blu-rays. I already made that joke. Okay, today we're taking a look, or I keep saying today we're taking a look, obviously. We're looking at Pompeii. This is from Paul W.S. Anderson, who apparently has done 3D movies before this. This movie was shot in 3D. It's not the most fun 3D I've ever seen. 3D is not really particularly deep either. A lot of it, the framing kind of helps augment the 3D. There is some cool 3D stuff in this movie, but on the whole, it's not really that super interesting. It's basically they took the idea of Titanic and then they did that in Pompeii. It's essentially that. Titanic but in Pompeii, and there's a volcano explosion at the end. It's alright. I'm glad they filmed it in 3D, but this isn't one I would run out immediately and get. If you have to choose, I mean, I don't know. If you want to support native 3D filmmaking, then I guess pick this up, but it's not the most. They could have done more with 3D. Which is a shame, because, I mean, obviously the guy has an affinity for the format. Oh, let me put that down here. This is another early 3D movie that I got, and it is Ridley Scott. Apparently Ridley Scott's also done... Yeah, okay, we'll get to that. This movie is really cool in 3D. Apparently it came out in IMAX 3D. My friend saw it in IMAX 3D. He said it was amazing, and the 3D in this movie is fantastic. There's another Ridley Scott movie that we'll get to later that I think the 3D was a bit better done, and I'm a small brain because I didn't put it back in my collection after watching it, so I completely skipped over, so I'm about to go over there and get that now. But we're going to talk about Prometheus. 3D is really cool when they go into the map room, or when you see the Nostradamus, I believe it's called. It's probably not called that. When you see the spaceship flying to the planet they're trying to get to, or the early shots when they're in Ireland and they're looking in that cave. Really cool 3D. There's a cool 3D sequence with the DNA. Movie itself isn't super fantastic, but if you're a fan of the Alien series and you want a nice Alien movie in 3D, then this would be one to get. It's a shame. I think James Cameron said he did actually have plans to post convert Aliens. I think my friend said the next movie he wants to do is Aliens, and that would be great. Or the original Alien. Who knows? The original Alien might be too dark for 3D.